Here is scene 1 expanded to about 1,000 words, just as you requested, no headings, no breaks, just a continuous narrative. Dash dash dash. The dinner rush at La Montagne had finally begun to thin, leaving the dining room wrapped in a softer, calmer glow. Crystal chandeliers dimmed to their evening setting, candles flickered gently on each polished table, and conversations lowered to murmurs instead of the frantic clatter of earlier hours. To most people, the final stretch of the night meant a chance to breathe. To Mia, it meant the moment she dreaded the most, dealing with the wealthy guests who always came late, always ordered the most complicated items, and always treated the staff as though they were invisible. She smoothed the front of her apron, checking once more that she hadn't missed anything, the order pad in her pocket, the pen tucked behind her ear, the tray wiped clean. Everything had to be perfect. She was already 3 doubles into the week, and the last thing she could afford was another incident. Her manager was fair, but rules were rules. And customers, especially rich ones, were considered untouchable. She approached the table of 3 men with a practiced smile, though on the inside, she felt a familiar tightening. They had been loud since the moment they arrived, not obnoxious enough to remove, but just disruptive enough to rattle every server who walked by. Their suits were tailored so sharply they practically announced their price tag. Their watches glowed under the chandelier light, each more expensive than her yearly rent. They didn't look at her when she took their orders, didn't say thank you when she brought their wine, didn't acknowledge her existence unless they were snapping their fingers for something trivial. But Mia had done her job. She had done everything exactly by the book. Now, standing beside their table, she placed the folded bill neatly in the center. "Gentlemen, whenever you're ready," she said, keeping her voice steady. The tallest one, slicked back hair, jaw tight with arrogance, leaned back in his chair with the slow confidence of a man who had grown up believing the world owed him something. He didn't look at the bill. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he tilted his head and said, calmly, "We're not paying for this." For a moment Mia thought she had misheard. The dining room's soft music and the quiet chatter from nearby tables blended into a hum around her. She blinked. "I'm sorry." This time the second man, slightly rounder in the face but equally smug, waved his hand as though swatting at a fly. "The steak was overcooked," he said. "The wine wasn't the 2018 bottle we ordered. And the service was slow." He gave her a pointed look. "Very slow." Mia's stomach twisted. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Every word he said was a lie. She had been attentive, overly attentive even, knowing the type of men they were. She had personally double-checked the temperature of their steaks. She had watched the sommelier pour their exact vintage. And she had passed by their tables so many times she'd lost count, but each time they had waved her away, too engrossed in their loud, self-satisfied conversation to even let her ask how the meal was going. "I can speak with the kitchen if something wasn't right," she offered carefully. "But I can't just take the whole bill off." "No need," the tallest man interrupted, finally lifting his gaze to hers. His eyes were sharp, amused, as if he enjoyed the discomfort he caused. "Just do your job and remove it." The third man chuckled. "You should be grateful we even came," he said. "This place is overpriced anyway." Their laughter rang out, cold and dismissive. Mia felt her throat tighten. She thought of her mother at home, her medications lined up in neat rows on the kitchen counter. She thought of her rent due in 5 days. She thought of how many shifts she had picked up, how many times she had swallowed her pride just to get through the day. She couldn't afford to lose a single dollar. But the restaurant had strict policies. Walking out on a bill could cost the server their tips for the night or worse, get them written up or suspended. "Please," Mia said quietly, her voice trembling despite her best effort to steady it. "If there was an issue with your meal, I can fix it. But I can't just void the entire bill without reason. I'll get in trouble." "That's not our problem," the tallest man said, rising from his seat with a leisurely stretch. "We said we're not paying. Do you really think the owner would side with some waitress over us?" His friends laughed again, standing and gathering their jackets as if they were the ones being inconvenienced. Mia felt something sink inside her, a helplessness she knew all too well. She wanted to argue, to stand up for herself, but every time she had tried in the past with customers like this, it had only ended badly. Her job depended on swallowing her frustration. Her livelihood depended on not fighting back. The men began walking toward the exit, leaving behind the bill, untouched and glaring up at her like a silent accusation. Mia hovered beside the table, heart pounding, unsure of what to do. Should she call the manager? Chase after them? Ask them again? Every option felt like a risk. The room felt suddenly colder. She took one step after them, inhaling, ready to at least try. Then a deep, steady voice cut through the air from behind her. Is there a problem? Everything stopped. The men froze mid-step. Their shoulders stiffened. Their confident swagger vanished in an instant. Mia turned around slowly. And there he was. Mr. Alden, the billionaire owner of La Montagne. The man whose face appeared in magazines and business journals, who was known for being both intimidatingly private and ruthlessly intelligent. He was supposed to be out of town. He never appeared during dinner service. And yet here he stood, shirt sleeves rolled up, expression carved from calm steel. Mia hadn't even heard him approach. Hadn't known he was in the building at all. I asked, he repeated, his tone quiet but carrying authority that made every other sound in the dining room fade, is there a problem? The three men exchanged panicked glances. Color drained from their faces. And in that single, electric moment, Mia understood. He had heard every word. Here is scene 2 expanded to about 1,000 words, with no headings, just a continuous narrative as requested. The tallest man was the first to try and assemble a smile, though it wavered like wet paper. Mr. Alden, what a surprise. We were just heading out. The service tonight was, well, frankly, beneath what we're used to. His voice faltered as Alden took a step closer. The billionaire didn't raise his voice. He didn't display anger. Instead, he looked at them with a calm, analytical gaze that felt far more dangerous. Interesting, he said softly. Because I watched the sommelier confirm your wine. He paused, letting the silence tighten around the men like a rope. I saw the chef personally ensure that your steaks were cooked to your specifications. And, he continued, his eyes narrowing only slightly, I listened as Mia checked on you multiple times, only for you to wave her away. One of the men swallowed loudly enough that Mia could hear it. Another shifted behind the others, suddenly fascinated by the floor. The third opened his mouth, but whatever excuse he had prepared died in his throat under Alden's steady stare. There must have been some misunderstanding, the round-faced one stammered. Maybe you didn't hear everything. Alden's expression didn't soften. I heard enough. The dining room had gone still. Forks hovered in the air. Glasses remained untouched. Even the soft piano music seemed quieter, as though the pianist himself sensed something significant unfolding. Servers had paused discreetly by the pillars and counters, pretending to be busy while stealing glances. Alden turned to Mia with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the ice he directed at the men. Did they threaten you with a complaint? He asked. Mia hesitated. Her heart thudded painfully. To accuse customers was a risk. Even with the owner standing here, the words felt heavy. Alden's voice lowered. Tell me the truth. You're not in trouble. Yes, she whispered finally. They said they wouldn't pay. And that you'd choose them over me. His jaw tightened. Just a small, controlled movement. But in that moment, Mia realized something. This man, who owned restaurants across cities, who probably made more money in a day than she did in a year, genuinely cared about how his staff were treated. He turned back to the men. Slowly, deliberately. Gentlemen, he said, each syllable crisp and cold, you're going to return to your table. You're going to pay your bill. In full. The tallest man's facade snapped, irritation flaring through the cracks of his fear. Or what? It was the wrong question. Alden stepped closer, not aggressively, but with the controlled confidence of someone entirely certain of his authority. He stood only a foot away now, and the men had to tilt their heads up to meet his eyes. Alden said calmly, I will personally ensure that every restaurant, every corporate partner, every private club, every elite event, and every investor circle in this city is informed of how you behave when you think no one of importance is watching. A muscle jumped in the tallest man's cheek. Alden continued, I do not tolerate mistreatment of my staff. Especially when that staff member has done her job with more professionalism than any of you have displayed in the last hour. The men tensed as if slapped. It was no secret that Alden held influence far beyond fine dining. His word could open doors, or shut them permanently. And he had just implied the latter. The round-faced man spoke first, voice trembling. We'll pay. Yes, the third man added quickly. Right away. And the tip? Alden asked quietly. Yes, of course, the tallest said, almost stumbling as he returned to the table. They fumbled for their wallets like schoolboys caught cheating on an exam. Mia watched in stunned silence as the tallest man scribbled his signature onto the bill with a shaking hand. The tip he added was enormous, far more than the cost of the meal itself. Whether it was genuine remorse or pure fear didn't matter. It was justice, and Mia felt her breath hitch with a strange mix of shock and relief. They placed the receipt on the table and hurried out so fast they nearly collided with a server carrying a tray. Once the door closed behind them, the dining room exhaled collectively. Quiet murmurs spread, sympathetic glances, nods of approval, whispers of, good for her. Alden waited until the last of the men disappeared down the street before turning back to Mia. The strictness in his expression softened into something human, warm. Mia, he said gently, are you all right? The question struck her harder than she expected. She nodded quickly, blinking back the sting behind her eyes. Yes, thank you. I didn't want to cause trouble. You didn't, he said, and his voice carried no hint of formality now. They caused trouble, and I won't allow people like that to mistreat the employees who keep my restaurants running. Mia swallowed. Words felt caught in her chest. She had been yelled at by customers before. She had been blamed unfairly. She had stayed quiet because she needed the job. But no one, had ever stood up for her like that. Alden glanced at the manager, who had rushed over the moment the confrontation ended. Increase her next paycheck, Alden instructed. A performance bonus. She handled herself with patience I doubt many people could manage. Mia's eyes widened. Sir, you don't have to. I know I don't have to, he interrupted, giving her a reassuring nod. I want to. She exhaled shakily, the weight she'd been carrying all evening lifting like fog in sunlight. And take a 10-minute break, Alden added softly. Go get some air, or some water, whatever you need. Mia nodded, a small, grateful smile forming despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. As she stepped away toward the staff hallway, she heard diners begin to applaud softly, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to tell her she was seen. Enough to tell her she mattered. She paused for a moment, hand resting lightly on the edge of a table as her heart steadied. For the first time that night, she stood tall. Justice had not only walked in, it had spoken, defended her, and made sure she left the encounter with her dignity intact. And Mia realized something she had never truly believed before. Sometimes the world did notice. Sometimes the powerful did listen. And sometimes, the truth won.